Hey guys, welcome back to the Bitcoin Bunker. I'm your host, Satoshi Down Under, and this episode I want to talk a little bit about Satoshi Nakamoto, the mysterious beginner creator of Bitcoin, and why it's important that he is no longer around or has chosen to disappear. But before we get into that, we'll have a quick look at the chart. We know price 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin. So this Aussie dollar or US dollar price really doesn't concern us. When we see the price has had a pullback, we buy. When it's getting frothy and running up, we can either discontinue dollar cost average or we can pause and wait. But right now, still a good buying opportunity. All has been quite quiet with Bitcoin at the moment, down 45% from the highs. So yeah, think of it like you're at the shops, you're at the Boxing Day sales and everything's 50% off. Great opportunity to buy Bitcoin right now. It looks as though that massive selling pressure that we had over the last over the last month, I guess. This is the daily chart here, so each one of these candles is 1 day. That massive selling pressure that we had looks like it's settled for now, and we're starting to form a bit of a sideways chop consolidation pattern. Now, I'm not one of these tea leaf reading chart guys. I mean, I was into it a few years ago, but now I dig deeper into Bitcoin, understanding the premise of Bitcoin. And once you understand that, and you understand that Bitcoin's going up forever, you decide it's probably not really worth your time sitting around trying to read charts and learn all these different terms and, count the Elliott waves and blah, 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 all that stuff. But it looks as though typically what we do see after we've had severe dumps or severe run-ups, we usually get these sideways consolidation periods. So, I mean, this is a fairly high band. We're talking between 73k and call it 55k on average, but anywhere here. I remember we're trying to break 58k. There was a meme going around about 58k gang because it seemed like we were going to get stuck on 58k forever. And just when everyone gets complacent and decides, Bitcoin's boring, it's not doing anything, then, we had a double in a very short period of time. So I think the same, 85%, let's call it. I think the same thing sort of repeats. So if you're into charts and whatever and you want to spend the time, you can look for these patterns where, after a severe move in one direction, you tend to get like a consolidation. And this will be where the smart money is buying. So they don't buy when we're at all-time highs. After massive run-ups, they don't go chasing huge price pumps. They wait for a dump and then they wait for a sideways consolidation. Now, I wouldn't call this period here long enough to say we're in a sideways chop. We could easily come down further, or, we could recover and start climbing back up. But typically, I think after a severe move, one direction or the other, we tend to have like a longer period of sideways consolidation. So, but like I say, we're not too interested in price. We know 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin, and we know there's only 21 million of them. The code, open source code, basically confirms that for us. And if you've watched the halving video, you know that every 4 years or thereabouts, the Bitcoin issuance gets halved. So yeah, the supply coming onto the market is shrinking and shrinking. We're at about 19 million coins issued now. There's also predicted that there's about 4 to 5 million coins missing or lost forever. They can be seen on chain through wallets where the Bitcoin hasn't moved for a long period of time, which leads us to Satoshi as well. So the pseudonymous creator of Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto, He is believed to be one of the biggest holders of Bitcoin, about 1 or 1.1 million coins, and they haven't moved since the early days of Bitcoin. Well, they've actually never moved since they were mined. So this kind of gives us the indication, at least, that whoever Satoshi Nakamoto was, which is up for speculation, if he mined those coins essentially for free, and he was, one person, and Bitcoin's, now at 68,000 US, this guy's like a multi-billionaire, and he would have sold his coins. So the rumor is that, one of the rumors is that he left the project. Now maybe he lost the keys to the Bitcoin, maybe he's passed away. There's other speculation that, because of the SHA-256 hashing algorithm that Bitcoin uses and a few other components of Bitcoin, the cryptography side, was created initially by the NSA and other US intelligence kind of agencies. There's rumors that, Satoshi Nakamoto was just a name, but it's actually a group of tech people maybe working for the NSA. But we won't really ever know. But I think the 1 million coins not moving is a good testament to the fact that, hey, they're probably, he or they either doesn't have access to these coins anymore, or, if you're going to wear your conspiracy hat, maybe there's a plan down the track. Maybe the US government is in control of that 1.1 million coins and they're going to sit on that and hold them. Maybe they'll, wipe their debt at some stage once we go to a Bitcoin standard. Maybe these players are ready and, they'll have a good chunk of the Bitcoin. But essentially, what does this mean for us? Well, what it means is we know that the Bitcoin supply is hard capped at 21 million. And we know that no matter what portion of Bitcoin we hold, we have the same amount of control as any entity or any individual owning 1.1 million coins. So effectively, Bitcoin doesn't have a CEO, right? So a lot of people would initially look at that and think that's a negative. So, like, who's in charge of this thing? We're so used to this world of, Elon Musk runs X and, Tesla and all this stuff. And we're conditioned through our lives to look to individuals as God kings in a way, and look at individuals other than ourselves to solve all of our problems, to tell us what money is, to run a company on our behalf if we're shareholders. But what this really does is opens up a huge attack vector. So what do I mean by that? Well, a few years ago, when maybe it was Democrats or whoever, but people opposing Elon Musk's views tried to run his company into the ground by naked short selling Tesla stock. And, him being a CEO, he had to fight that. Okay. Luckily he had strong company. He was a smart guy and there was a lot of people that had faith in him and bought the stock. But if we think about an individual being in charge of a company, there's massive risk there, right? So as brilliant as Elon Musk may be, if he dies tomorrow, is his company or are his companies going to be as successful without him? Or is the share price going to take a hit and potentially the next CEO that comes in to fill his place doesn't have the same vision as him? Maybe they don't have the same business now or whatever else, right? And they could effectively run that company into the ground. So everywhere we look in society, there's this sort of weakness with individuals. If we look at politics, anyone that believes in politics, good luck to you. But the individual, whether it be a prime minister or a president, is the weakest link in the chain of the government, right? Because anyone with more money than that individual can bribe or blackmail them. So we've talked about a mafia before. So how does a mafia work? Well, if I start a mafia, you only have to go and watch Sopranos. You know the deal, right? Like, you go around, you put people under the threat of violence to do what you want them to do, maybe pay you protection money or whatever else, to get your own way, to get your foot in the door into that industry. And if that doesn't work, well, you blackmail them or you bribe them, right? So it probably works the other way. They probably start with the bribe, bribe the politician to pass new laws allowing your gas company to, drill offshore without having to pay for gas, pay the government, pittance of a royalty or something like that. So in these scenarios, you see that it's the individual, because the individual can be corrupted. And it's nothing against the individual, right? Because we have to recognize that if we're in those positions, say you're a premier of a state or you're a senator over in the US, whatever, if someone comes to you with either a threat to you or your family, if you don't play ball and play by their rules, or with a brown paper bag and says, just look the other way, let us do what we're going to do, or things will turn ugly and you're better off taking our bribe, most of us would do it, like, that's just human nature. We're going to try and protect ourselves and look after ourselves and our immediate family. So I used to get really pissed off with politicians and how spineless they are and that, but now I've kind of recognized that, given that you might be, if you were in that position, you would probably behave the same way. So rather than be pissed off with these individuals, you just have to recognize that they're like the single point of failure, or they're, one of the weaknesses, right? So how's this come back to Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin doesn't have the CEO, right? So there's no one to go out and threaten. There's no one to go and pull aside and, get them to change something and give them like a bribe or a sweetheart deal or something, right? Because there's no one's arm to twist. And this is the real power of Bitcoin, and something we really haven't had before. It's a completely decentralized network. The code's open source, so even any nefarious actors working on the code are being watched by thousands of people around the world, smarter than me, reading the code, looking at the proposed changes, and voting with running their node and running whatever implementation of Bitcoin that they want to run. Previous versions, they decide not to upgrade. They run NOTs or some other implementation, right? So we, the people, have power to remain somewhat anonymous while using Bitcoin, and also know that there's no CEO that's going to get bribed, blackmailed, murdered, paid off to fuck us over, essentially. And that's really why not knowing who Satoshi is was a real gift, or why Satoshi walking away from the project in the very early days was a gift to all of us, and actually was probably one of the main reasons why Bitcoin stands out above all other cryptocurrencies, for one, but also why it's able to survive and thrive. There's no head of the snake to take off, so to speak. So, yeah, I don't know how many people know that. They probably know Satoshi, the name, but, I don't know how many people actually understand how important it is that Bitcoin doesn't have a CEO. And if we look at Bitcoin's history and how its price has been going in USD, think about all these companies that are out there that are actively marketing, actively trying to bring in new capital, new investment. You know, it's like cutthroat out there trying to raise funding and get capital to your business idea. And yet here, sitting alongside all those businesses is Bitcoin. No CEO, no PR department, purely just individuals like myself learning about it, deciding to opt in, sharing it because, you know, they have this epiphany that, shit, this could be a solution to a lot of problems. I mean, we're the PR, like just plebs like us, sitting around, doing the time, digging into it, and then seeing how it benefits our life, and then deciding to share it with everyone else. So, I mean, you've got to sort of take a step back for a second and look at how far Bitcoin's come in 17 years. Without those things, without that single point of failure, that CEO that can be bribed or blackmailed, and it's thriving. Like Bitcoin's winning, you know. So yeah, I definitely see, you know, the mystery of Satoshi is one of the greatest gifts to Bitcoin and to all of us that decide to participate. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on that because I don't know how many people know that. In the end of the day, will we ever know who he or she or they were that created Bitcoin? I mean, to me, it doesn't really matter, you know. Yeah, would we like to know? Yeah, maybe, but it really doesn't matter, you know. This thing's so big now, and the reality is that even if Satoshi came out, had the 1.1 million coins, and or that wallet moved the coins, you know, it doesn't matter now. The network's grown to a size where we have enough hash rate with the miners that are involved. We have enough distribution among regular holders, individuals, and I mean, individuals still make up most of the holdings when you compare it to governments and corporations and all of that. So most of the coins are out already. They're distributed. They continue to get redistributed as weak hands sell. People that don't have the conviction sell when we have a price dump like this. And, you know, those with the faith, the conviction, that have put in the proof of work, we buy them up. And this will just keep going on. Each cycle will happen. But yeah, so nothing stops Bitcoin, guys. Do the research, keep digging, keep looking at it. But not having a CEO is definitely not a downside. It's a great benefit to us. So yeah, just wanted to share that, and I'll probably try and do another one this week. And if you like it, like and subscribe, do all of that stuff, and share it with a friend, and keep stacking sats. Cheers.